Welcome to the Bullvine Podcast, your go-to source for inside stories, cutting-edge research, and the latest updates in the world of dairy farming. In our 137th episode, we look into the dream of World Dairy Expo Glory. These 12 genetic powerhouses could turn your fantasy into reality. From proven type titans to rising genomic stars, we've got the inside scoop on the bulls that'll have you polishing supreme champion hardware. So, please grab a glass of milk, sit back, and let's get started with this episode.
I'm Douglas, and with me is Bella. Today we're diving deep into breeding strategies for the next World Dairy Expo Grand Champion.
That's right, Douglas. We're about to share some insider knowledge on the top sires that could turn show ring dreams into reality. But first, let's talk about why breeding for show success is so important.
Absolutely, Bella. Breeding for show success isn't just about winning ribbons. It's about pushing the boundaries of what's possible in dairy cattle genetics and showcasing the best of what our industry has to offer.
Exactly. And it's not just about looks either. The ideal show cow needs to combine outstanding type with production efficiency and longevity.
Speaking of which, let's start with SHG Lego, the type titan. Bella, what can you tell us about him?
Lego is reigning supreme with a plus 4.69 PTAT. He's siring daughters that are sky-high in stature, plus 4.95, and built like brick houses, 2.12 strength. But breeders should watch out for that slightly negative fat percentage, -0.06%, and daughter pregnancy rate, -2.9.
That's a great point about fertility, Bella. It reminds me of something I read recently about breeding strategies. When using high-type sires like Lego, it's crucial to balance conformation with fertility and longevity to ensure herd sustainability.
Absolutely, Douglas. Now let's move on to Red Carpet Story Arc, the total package. He's bringing the heat with a plus 4.56 PTAT and balanced production, plus 854 milk, plus 24 fat, plus 26 protein. But again, breeders should keep an eye on those fertility traits.
It's interesting how fertility keeps coming up, isn't it? It just goes to show that even when breeding for show, we can't neglect the practical aspects of dairy farming.
You're right, Douglas. Now let's talk about Jimtown Nelson, our frame game player. He's crushing it with a plus 4.36 PTAT. His daughters are tall, 5.47 stature, strong plus 3.37 strength, and deep-bodied, 4.07 body depth. Just be prepared for some seriously sized animals.
Size can be impressive in the show ring, but it's worth noting that larger cows may have higher maintenance requirements. Breeders need to consider if their management system can support these larger animals.
Great point, Douglas. For those looking to add some color to their herd, there's SHG Laser RC, the red-hot ticket. With a plus 4.00 PTAT, he's the top dog for red carriers.
Red factor can certainly make a cow stand out in the ring. But Bella, what are your thoughts on crossbreeding in show herds?
That's an interesting question, Douglas. While purebreds dominate the show ring, crossbreeding can offer benefits in terms of hybrid vigor. It's a balance between maintaining breed purity and potentially improving health traits.
Moving on to proven sires, we have Golden Oaks Master ET, the type maestro. With a plus 3.73 PTAT, he's a proven type powerhouse. His exceptional udder traits are particularly noteworthy.
And don't forget about our Canadian friends. Progenesis Anish is the Canadian conformation king with an impressive plus 18 conformation score. He's redefining what it means to be a type powerhouse north of the border.
It's great to see strong genetics coming from different countries. Speaking of which, Hayden Limited P is another Canadian star, sharing the top spot for daughter-proven conformation with a plus 16 score. Plus, he's polled.
Polled genetics are becoming increasingly popular. It's a great example of how breeding goals are evolving to include animal welfare considerations.
Absolutely, Bella. Now, for those interested in famous cow families, there's 3-star O Ranger Red ET, the Shakira connection. He brings the genetic potential of Herbacrest Snapple Shakira EX97-4E to your herd.
Famous cow families can certainly add some star power to a breeding program, but it's important to remember that individual animal performance is what really counts in the show ring.
Great point, Bella. Mr. Lambda Flame ET carries on the Footloose legacy, promising exceptional dairy character and stature. He's a direct son of Oakfield Solomon Footloose, the 2022 World Dairy Expo Supreme Champion.
And finally, We have Blondin Energy, the rising star. With a plus 4.05 PTAT, he's definitely one to watch. His high numbers on both sides of the border make him an intriguing option for breeders.
Now, Bella, we've covered a lot of ground here. What's the bottom line for our listeners?
The bottom line is this. With these genetic powerhouses in your arsenal, that World Dairy Expo dream is no longer a fantasy. It's a goal with a roadmap. But remember, even with elite genetics, there's no substitute for good management, proper nutrition, and attention to detail in preparing animals for the show ring.
Absolutely. And it's worth noting that while we've focused on type traits today, a successful breeding program needs to balance show ring appeal with practical traits like production efficiency, fertility, and longevity.
That's right, Douglas. According to recent research, the dairy industry is refining selection indexes to place greater emphasis on traits such as animal welfare, health, longevity, and environmental sustainability.
It's an exciting time in dairy breeding, Bella. The tools available to breeders today, from genomic selection to advanced reproductive technologies, offer unprecedented opportunities to make rapid genetic progress.
Indeed, Douglas. But with great power comes great responsibility. Breeders need to have clear goals and use these tools wisely to create cows that not only look great in the show ring, but also perform well in the barn.
Well said, Bella. Any final words of advice for our listeners?
Yes, I'd encourage all breeders to stay informed about the latest developments in dairy genetics and breeding technologies. And remember, breeding a champion is a marathon, not a sprint. It takes patience, persistence, and a willingness to continually learn and adapt your strategy.
Excellent advice, Bella. Before we wrap up, let's quickly recap the key takeaways for our listeners.
Great idea, Douglas. Here are the main points to remember. 1. Invest in top genetic bulls to improve your herd's show potential and production traits. 2. Balance conformation with fertility and longevity to ensure herd health and sustainability. 3. Monitor daughter pregnancy rate and cow conception rate when planning breedings. 4. Choose sires with high PTAT and production scores for a competitive edge in show rings. 5. Consider using a mix of proven sires and rising genomic stars for a diversified genetic approach. 6. Don't neglect functional traits when focusing on show type characteristics. 7. Stay informed about industry trends and new genetic technologies.
Those are excellent points, Bella. I'd also add that breeders should always consider their specific herd goals and management style when selecting sires. What works for one farm may not be the best choice for another.
Absolutely, Douglas. It's all about finding the right balance for your individual operation.
Thanks for joining us for this in-depth discussion on breeding strategies for show ring success. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to the Bullvine Podcast. Until next time, keep breeding for excellence.
Thank you for tuning in to the Bullvine Podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's insightful discussion. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Catch you next time on the Bullvine Podcast, where bovine expertise and community come together.